Bitcoin è considerato una valuta? Cosa dice la legislazione in Europa dal punto di vista della tassazione, ma anche dal punto di vista della spendibilità della moneta? Ragazzi, so che queste sono domande molto importanti che molti di noi si fanno, alcuni conoscono le risposte, altri non sanno quali sono le risposte corrette, quindi ho pensato bene di pubblicarvi oggi un intervento molto interessante che è stato fatto alla Blockchain Conference che abbiamo organizzato quest'anno a Milano, e vi riporto l'intero video integrale. Purtroppo il video è in inglese, ma potete mettere i sottotitoli in italiano se preferite, se avete problemi direttamente da YouTube, in modo tale da avere la traduzione in tempo reale. Il video e lo speaker fa riferimento a molte legislazioni, a molti leggi sia a livello europeo che italiano, quindi vi consiglio poi di approfondire. Spero che sia utile a tutti, e per questo video è tutto. Marco Casario qui, buon trading a tutti, ciao!
Good evening, everybody. As it has been said before, I'm a lawyer. I work both in Rome and Milan. I learned about Bitcoin back in 2014, and since then I just dove into Bitcoin. This is pretty much all I care about. And I will talk about Bitcoin from a legal perspective. I will make reference to principles and rules which are applicable in the EU, and to principles which are directly applicable in Italy. So I will also make reference to rules which apply only the Italian legal system, notwithstanding that, please consider that the similar rules are pretty much provided all over the world. And you'll understand through my presentation the reason why every country has similar rules. So notwithstanding the fact that I will make reference to Italian rules, the same rules do apply in other jurisdictions. So let's start by talking about Bitcoin's characteristics and features. The fundamental characteristics of Bitcoin are the following one. Bitcoin is available and accessible. Of course, it is available and accessible in a limited quantity. This is the reason why we talk about a scarce digital asset. It's fungible, it's divisible, it's durable, and the most important thing, it's transferable. Transferability, when we talk about transferability, referring to Bitcoin, we need to understand what we're really talking about. There are two meanings. The first meaning is connected to the fact that that Bitcoin can be transferred to someone else. But then there's one more thing to say, because actually this is the only thing we can do with Bitcoin. There's nothing else we can do with Bitcoin except transferring it to someone else. So from this description, we see that there are some characteristics which make Bitcoin similar to money. So let's ask ourselves, is Bitcoin money? And in order to answer to this question, we first need to note that from a legal perspective, there's no definition of money. We talk about irredeemable money or legal tender from an economic perspective. It's an economic concept. And when we talk about currency, we refer to the same thing, but we are approaching money from a legal perspective. Apart from that, we said already that there is no legal definition of money. This is what happens in Italy, but it's the same thing pretty much all over the world. And there's a reason for that. Because money is something which comes out from society by itself. Money is what people do use as such, rather than what the government says that money is. And this is historic evidence about that. You just go on Google and Google about the Swiss dinar, which was not money used in Switzerland, actually was used in Iraq. And the story tells you how money which was originally fiat money, can still be used, notwithstanding the fact that the government at one point decided not to treat it as fiat money anymore. So we say that there is no legal definition of money, but how do scholars treat money? When they speak about money, how do they find money? What we know is that usually scholars, what they care about is to define the relationship between the person who owns money and the money itself. And from this point of view, scholars have recently, they learned, they started to admit that it's not even correct to, when we speak about money, to talk about property. There's no property on money, because actually the only thing that we can do with money is spend it. This is what an Italian author, Gaggiano, says. She wrote this book, and I found these two sentences which are on the slide behind me. The first one says, "The real essence of money, since it was created to allow the exchange of goods and services as a universal medium of exchange, is in its exchange value, and thus in its natural ability to circulate as a means of payment. Therefore, the act of transferring, spending money, represents its ultimate scope. The fact that money is a medium naturally intended to circulate may in abstract, and in fact it does, determine in several legal systems a special set of rules. So money is treated in a different way respect to any other good and fungible good. There are specific rules which are intended to facilitate the circulation of money, because this is what money is. Money is something we need to spend. So there may be no barriers which will hinder the circulation of money. So we say that money is all intended to circulate. This is a common thing with Bitcoin. So is Bitcoin money? When we describe money, we say that there is no legal definition of money, but there is a definition from an economical perspective. And the economists usually say that money is defined by its functions. It must serve three functions. The first one, it has to serve the function of medium of exchange, store of value, that's the second function, and then it must serve the function of unit of account. And let's see if Bitcoin serves the same functions. Well, we can say that Bitcoin is a medium of exchange, even if we know that most of the times Bitcoin is not purchased for this reason. It's not traded for this reason. It's not traded because we pay someone. It's traded because we're just maybe making trading and trying to gain some money by buying and selling cryptos. Is it a store of value? There's a dispute on that, because from one point of view, we can say that Bitcoin has no value at all. So we can also say, we could also affirm that Bitcoin is not a store of value at all. Some other people say that, admit that Bitcoin may serve as a store of value, but it only serves as a poor store of value. While if we are talking about the third function, which is the unit of account, then we can say that it's rarely happens that people price their goods or services directly in Bitcoin. So that is to say that maybe if we look at these three functions, we can say that maybe Bitcoin is not money. And this is actually what it has been said also by the European Central Bank. In the Virtual Schemes report, which was published back in February 2015, the European Central Bank, which is the most important authority on monetary issues in the European Union, expressly stated that Eurosystem central banks do not recognize Bitcoin. It referred actually to virtual currency and virtual currency schemes, but we can adapt this sentence referring it to Bitcoin, would belong to the world of money or currency as used in economic literature, nor is virtual currency money, currency, or a currency from a legal perspective. The same European Central Bank also stated that from an economics perspective, the virtual currencies known about do not fully meet all three functions of money. And from a legal perspective, money isn't anything that is used widely to exchange value in transactions. Thus, the term currency is used for minted forms of money, and nowadays usually take in the form of coins and banknotes. In a more conceptual sense, a particular currency refers to the specific form of money that is in generally used within a country. Given that VCS, that is, virtual currency schemes, are not used widely to exchange value, they are not legally money. That is what the European Central Bank has stated. But we also have a decision taken by the European Court of Justice in 2015 on the case C264/2014. The Court of Justice explicitly stated in paragraph 17 in his decision that Bitcoin is a means of payment, used in similar way to legal means of payment. So there is a distinction between Bitcoin and legal means of payment. And the same court states that Bitcoin is a virtual currency which has no purpose other than to be a means of payment. That is paragraph 24. In paragraph 42, the court says that Bitcoin is a contractual means of payment, and that Bitcoin is a direct means of payment between the operators that accept it. On paragraph 49, it says, once again, that Bitcoin is a means of payment, and the same thing is stated in paragraph 52 of the decision taken by the European Court of Justice. Bitcoin virtual currency has no other purpose than to be a means of payment. Then we have the European Parliament legislative resolution, which was adopted on April 19, just a few months ago, which gave a new legal definition of virtual currencies. And this definition expressly states that virtual currencies do not possess the legal status of currency or money. So we can say for sure that Bitcoin is not in the EU, cannot be treated as money or nor as a currency. And we can also state that Bitcoin is a means of payment. This is what has been stated, as we saw before, by the European Central Bank, the European Court of Justice, the European and the European Parliament. So, one more thing to say. Bitcoin is a means of payment, but it's a special means of payment because it's a voluntary means of payment. That means that no one is obliged to accept Bitcoin as payment. And this is what the main difference between Bitcoin and money. Means of payment accepted on a voluntary basis become economically relevant only if and when they are effectively accepted as a means of payment. And we can also say the same thing from a legal point of view. They become legally relevant for the legal system only if and when Bitcoins are accepted as payment. Means of payment from a legal system. What else? Okay. The voluntary basis of Bitcoin is what makes Bitcoin different from money. if we talk about money, we have first, according to Article 1277 of the Italian Civil Code, pecuniary debts shall be paid with money having a legal tender. It means that if we have a debt, we have the right to repay our debts by paying with euros if we live in Europe, dollars if we live in the States. We cannot say the same thing with bitcoins. We do not have the right to pay our debts in bitcoins. And according to Article 693 of the Italian Penal Criminal Code, any person who refuses to accept money having a legal tender status shall be sanctioned. At first, it was a law provided for a sanction which would lead to the jailing of the person who refused to accept euros as payment in Europe. But now it's just an administrative sanction. It's not a criminal sanction anymore. So when the exchange of Bitcoin actually does not allow the creation of a debt, Bitcoins are not made for this reason. Bitcoins are made only to make a payment, which is something different from creating a debt or a credit. One important thing, I refer to Article 1, Paragraph 4 of the Legislative Decree 58 of 1998, which is, of course, an Italian rule, but the same rule is provided all over Europe. And the rule states that means of payment are not financial instruments. So if you will ever find anyone who will state that Bitcoin and cryptos are financial instruments, you can make reference to a specific rule which is provided by the Italian legal system and by any other legal system which is part of the European Union. There's a rule which states the contrary. Means of payment, and we say that we verified before that Bitcoin is a means of payment, according to the European Parliament, to the European Court of Justice, to the European Central Bank. So if it's a means of payment, it may not be treated as a financial instrument. This is pretty much all. Did I rush too much? I don't know. I'm here for your questions. If you have any question, I'm at your disposal.